For months, farmers across this region had been reporting the same thing. A gigantic wild boar was appearing around their fields under the cover of darkness. It wasn't like the other wild boars. Traps had been destroyed time and time again. Fences had been smashed apart. Enormous tracks would appear, then vanish without a trace. It always seemed that the same animal was behind it all. The locals had given it a name, Old Scar. An old boar covered in battle scars, incredibly wary, and believed to have escaped countless pursuits. Today, we would try to find it once again. Right at the edge of the forest, we came across a lone wild boar. It was an Old Scar, but the tracks around it showed that it had been traveling with a much larger group only moments before. A quick shot brought the encounter to an end. We continued following the direction the sounder had taken. Deeper into the marshland, another boar was hiding behind a patch of dry reeds. It tried to keep its distance, waiting for us to pass. But patience wasn't enough to save it. As the boar collapsed, we discovered several fresh, oversized tracks pressed into the soft ground. Old Scar might have been here not long before. By midday, the number of tracks had increased dramatically. That could only mean one thing. We were getting closer to the main sounder. A group of wild boars began to emerge ahead of us. The first one that stepped out of the brush was brought down immediately, but there was still no sign of Old Scar. Then everything suddenly erupted. An entire sounder burst out from a dense patch of brush and immediately detected our presence. They scattered in every direction. The pickup truck accelerated at once, racing after them. Gunshots rang out one after another. Clouds of dust billowed behind the fleeing boars. But what disappointed us most was that the majority of them still managed to escape. And in that brief moment, I caught a glimpse of a gigantic boar running behind the rest of the sounder. It might have been Old Scar. No one wanted to give up after getting that close. We continued following the fresh tracks. After covering a long distance, a solitary boar appeared in the middle of the grassland. For a few brief seconds, we thought the hunt was finally over. But as we moved closer, it was an Old Scar. Even so, the boar was quickly brought down, and the search continued. The sun was beginning to set. The last light of the day stretched across the forest's edge ahead. Just as the group was preparing to end the hunt, something moved. A massive boar stepped out from the line of trees, larger than any we had seen all day, covered in scars, alert, always scanning its surroundings before taking another step. This time, we didn't miss our chance. A single well-placed shot echoed through the air. The boar collapsed onto grass. After months of appearing only in the stories of local farmers, Old Scar's journey had finally come to an end. Old Scar was gone, but the wild boars beyond these fields were still out there. The struggle to protect crops and farms would continue. Only one thing had changed. The most elusive boar in this region would no longer return tomorrow night. After nearly an hour of following fresh tracks left in the soft soil, we moved deeper into an area of dense palm trees along the edge of the fields. The surroundings became unusually quiet until a slight movement beneath the shade caught my attention. Resting beneath a large palm tree was an adult wild boar, completely unaware of our presence. I immediately stopped, slowly drew my bow, and locked onto the target. The distance was close enough, the shooting angle was perfect, and this could be the best opportunity we would have all morning. After a few seconds of concentration, I released the bow. The arrow flew true, and the boar collapsed almost instantly. It was a promising start to the hunt, but we knew very well that a single boar was only the tip of the iceberg. If the signs we had seen earlier were accurate, the rest of the sounder was still somewhere ahead. After retrieving the arrow and continuing to follow the trails left behind by the boars, we pushed deeper into the woods. Fresh tracks and newly disturbed soil showed that wild boar activity in this area remained frequent. Then, while moving through a small opening between the trees, we unexpectedly spotted another boar feeding not far away. This time, Liam reacted first. He quickly raised his bow, locked onto the target, and waited for the right moment. In an instant, the arrow left the string and flew straight toward the boar. The accurate shot dropped it almost where it stood before it could escape into the forest. Taking down 2 boars within such a short period confirmed that we were moving through an active area. But the more fresh signs we discovered around us, the stronger the feeling that these animals were only stragglers separated from the main group, while most of the sounder remained somewhere ahead. After nearly 2 hours of continuous movement through dense woods and trails covering the north side, we finally reached an area where an automatic feeder had been installed several days earlier. This location regularly attracted wild boars during the early morning and late evening hours, so the group quickly selected a concealed position and settled into wait. We did not have to wait long. Only a few minutes after everything was set, the first movement appeared near the feeder. A lone wild boar slowly emerged from the brush, completely unaware that it was being watched. This was exactly the opportunity we had been waiting for. A well-placed arrow was released, and the boar dropped before it even had a chance to react. It was proof that the feeder was still doing its job, but it also raised a more interesting question. If one boar had appeared, could the rest of the sounder be very close by? But surprisingly, we did not have to wait long for the answer. Only a few minutes after the first boar went down, the bushes ahead began to move again. From the shadows, another wild boar emerged and headed straight toward the feeder, seemingly unaware of what had just happened. I immediately raised my bow, remained calm, and followed its every movement. When the boar stepped into a favorable position, I released the string. The arrow struck true, and within moments, the second boar was down to blood. Two opportunities arriving back to back with almost no pause made the group begin to believe that this area might be attracting far more wild boars than we had originally expected. And if that was true, then the real hunt had probably only just begun. After waiting a while longer without seeing another boar, we decided to move to the next location. There, a sow and her piglets were gathered around a feeding station, constantly sniffing and feeding without noticing our presence. Seizing the opportunity, we quickly moved into position. Just seconds later, an arrow flew true, and the sow collapsed beside the feeder. As the piglets scattered into the woods in panic, we knew we had removed one of the animals responsible for some of the most significant damage in the area. Not far away, a young wild boar seemed to realize that something was wrong, repeatedly lifting its head and scanning its surroundings. But before it could turn and run, we spotted it first. The boar stood fully exposed within range. Another arrow was released, and it never had a chance to escape. Within moments, another animal had been taken out. After many hours of tracking through forests and farmland across Florida, we successfully removed several more wild boars active in the area. Every animal taken out of the population means less risk of fields being torn apart, crops being destroyed, and months of hard work being wiped away overnight. Wild boars are not just another species of wildlife. With their rapidly growing numbers, high reproductive rates, and immense destructive power, they have become one of the greatest threats to agriculture in Florida. And that is exactly why hunts like this must continue, not for entertainment, but to help manage wild boar populations and protect the fields that farming families have spent months working so hard to build and maintain. After surveying the area, we chose to approach from the higher forest side. The observation point was positioned where the entire route commonly used by the boars could be monitored. From above, every movement beneath the canopy became clearly visible. The boars entered without realizing the area had already been under surveillance. We did not rush. The most important task was to confirm their numbers and direction of movement to ensure that any intervention could be carried out safely for the surrounding farms. Once everything was under control, the management plan was implemented in a coordinated manner. The first cultivated area was temporarily secured. We continued searching through the forest as the light improved. Daytime made it much easier to observe tracks and identify hiding locations. Several individuals had separated from the group and were concealed beneath thick layers of leaves. Distinct signs such as dark coats and freshly formed trails made their locations easier to identify. After a period of careful control and proper guidance, the area gradually became quiet again. The risk of nighttime damage was significantly reduced. The hot weather required adjustments in movement. Wild boars often seek shaded thickets to cool themselves, as their ability to sweat is extremely limited. This survival characteristic makes it easier to predict their movements. Rather than searching randomly, we focused on dense vegetation near water sources and shaded areas. By understanding their behavior, it became possible to establish control points effectively without excessive movement in harsh weather conditions. As we moved deeper into the dense brush, the level of risk increased considerably. Visibility became limited, and every movement required careful planning. The trained dogs began to play a crucial role. They moved efficiently through the thick vegetation, tracking scents and signaling whenever fresh signs were detected. Their assistance significantly reduced the amount of time required to locate the animals. Instead of searching every section, we could concentrate directly on the areas that required attention. Through the cooperation between people and their animal partners, the management process became both more accurate and much safer. Before we could fully assess the situation, a signal from the west indicated suspicious movement. However, the direction of travel matched the original plan. There was no concern and no need for a prolonged pursuit. The boars were moving directly toward the area where James had already established a control point. Information was quickly relayed through an iPhone to ensure every position was prepared. There was no need for a lengthy chase, only the need to hold positions. As the boars entered the familiar corridor, the entire plan began to work as intended. The control operation was carried out efficiently and safely for the surrounding area. Before darkness completely settled in, we conducted one final inspection. Dense areas were carefully checked to ensure that no individuals remained hidden near the cultivated land. Control efforts do not end at a single moment. They require continuous monitoring to prevent the risk of reappearance during the following nights.